Welcome and thanks for joining. For those returning, each month we discuss advocacy campaigns that can help propel the financial wellness movement forward and empower people within your community with tips and strategies that can help them best. Additionally, we built out all of our advocacy campaigns to support our financial educators, our financial coaches, those that are just advocates for financial wellness, and even people in the financial service community. Our goal is to provide you tools, training, and tips to help you not only further the movement, but also increase your success in what you're doing as well. With that said, February, we turn our focus to love and money. In fact, in 2001, we invented this concept called Love and Money Month. We launched our initial campaign with CNBC. We were commissioned to do an article for them in a quiz, and we've expanded since then to really focus on three core areas of love. One is with romantic partners. We actually built this for Valentine's Day, hence the rooted in the romantic partner relationship. But we expanded since then. It's also a focus on helping parents talk to their kids about money and also helping adult children talk to their aging parents about money. And for those of you that know us, we have a very holistic approach to financial education. What I mean by that, it's great when we can educate a single person from a family. It's even better when we can engage other family members because we know that will have a direct impact on each of their financial situation. So if we can just educate one person, the goal is for them to bring that positive and the positive knowledge that they've gained through whatever events, coaching, whatever, to their family members, so everybody's benefiting. And it can not only help the family, close friends, but also the community as a whole. So I think this idea of communication is very critical when it comes to money and relationships. And if we're not communicating, there could be a lot of negative things that happen. Hey, if we're not teaching our kids about money, what can happen? Well, they can live with you till they're 50 or 60. They can be borrowing money from you. They can never get out on their own and never live a fulfilling life. If we're not talking to our romantic partner about money, we could be totally off on life goals. It's the leading cause of divorce, and it causes a lot of stress in relationships. And if we're not talking to our aging parents about money, a lot of bad things can happen, whether it be infighting amongst peers and siblings about the will and so forth, to just not knowing where things are when it comes to that tragic state when they're at their end of life. So a lot of things can happen if we're not communicating. And again, the goal of Love and Money Month is to encourage that communication across those three areas. And again, when we'll get into this, we'll start with romantic relationships, but I'll be sharing ideas and tips to host events, on ways you can coach people, on ways you can leverage that for promotions. And I'll be doing that across those three areas as well, because I want you to really benefit from this as you're exposing this to the community as a whole. Before we get into that first section, let me share with you a survey we did. This is about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And we asked people a simple question. We said, who can you comfortably talk to about your personal finances? Right? Simple question. You would think a lot of people would say, hey, I have friends, family, and close members of the family. But the most common answer from over 50% of the people was nobody. They had nobody to talk to about their finances. We had only 21% that felt comfortable talking with their spouse about money, or romantic partner, to say, about money. So that's a very challenging situation, especially when you're in that relationship, typically shared finances. You should be working toward common goals. And yet over 78% of people don't feel comfortable talking with them about money. And you see here down the line, only 11% feel comfortable talking to their parents, siblings, about that 10% mark, and then friends and coworkers, about that 7% mark. So that communication is a very big thing when it comes to money, especially in close, loving relationships, because that can derail things. And I'm going to start off by talking about romantic relationships, because I think that is an area where people go off course quite a bit. Additionally, it can cause very serious negative financial situations for both parties. And I'm going to share with you a screen that really breaks down the romantic relationships into different life stages. And the reason I'm doing this, I want you to understand that at each stage of a romantic relationship, there's different opportunities that you can serve them as an educator and a coach. Additionally, there's different promotions you can do depending on your target market. First off, if you go to our website, Love and Money Month, you're going to find a lot of free resources that you can utilize in helping to get this message out. Our goal is, again, to increase that communication out there, and you guys can help facilitate that and really make a meaningful difference in people's lives. But in here, we have a few, I want to break down the different stages of a relationship. So that way you can identify if you're serving a certain type of audience, you may want to do some type of event or promotions centered around that. So we use NAP's relationship model. There's a few models out there. We use NAP simply because it's easy and very clean, and it made a lot of sense to us here. But the first stage is initiation, that initial first impression stage. And I think, those working with younger people that are in that dating scene, and that next stage is the experimentation stage where they're kind of probing if they want to have that relationship. I think for those that are working with younger people, there's a lot of opportunities to do events and promotions around that. We have a guide that's available there. I think that might be to our clients only. That is 65 money conversations you should have at each different stage. And there's some interesting things that occur at younger, those earlier stages, in ways to ask questions where you're learning about somebody's situation without being too brass, right? So instead of like, if you're just dating somebody for the first time, a lot of people would say it's taboo to ask about income, how much is in the bank, and credit score. I'm not going to make any judgment there, but I can say this. If you ask a direct question like that on the first, second, third, or fourth date, you probably won't get a truly honest answer. So in that guide, you'll see questions you can ask to have a better conversation and get better answers, right? It may be simply changing the question to see, hey, are you more frugal, or you kind of live for the moment and spend for the moment? So you're getting ideas of their values and how they manage their money. The next two stages are interesting because this is where we're intensifying the relationship, intensifying the time we're spending with them, and starting to mingle our personal lives, our friends, our relationships, our and time together has increased quite a bit. And during those stages, I think it's critical to evaluate if this is a person you want to move forward with, especially considering their finances, right? If you have somebody that's super frugal and somebody that's an overspender, can that work? Possibly, yes. And I've seen circumstances where it has, but most people are attracted to people with similar type of spending and saving habits. So I think during those stages, coaches and educators can really help facilitate that conversation. I think there's great opportunities for coaches doing premarital financial coaching and educators hosting events before the marriage and things that they can do together and questions they can ask. Simple things like, hey, should we have a prenup? Should we combine finances? Are you planning on buying a home? These things should be talked about early before the last stage, which is the bonding stage. So that bonding stage, you're committed, the license is done, and now there's financial risk on both parties, and also just a time and risk as well. So again, romantic partner relationships, you need to be talking about finances and doing so in a very meaningful and organized way. And again, this guide here, Couple Money Talks, I think is beneficial. We also have the Cost of Love Life events for those planning things like having a kid. As of last year, having a kid cost $233,000, raising them to age 18. So some interesting things there, and also some conversation starters, how to prepare for important life events. All these can be leveraged for workshops, for promotions, and different things like that. Also, pay attention to our social media over February. We will be putting out a lot of these resources you can share with your audience as well. And again, the goal is a fewfold. One, we want to help you and provide you resources that you can share publicly that align your brand with financial wellness. And again, if you're putting out specific tips that you see in there geared toward the ages you're serving or the marital status of those you're serving, that's a really good thing. And if you don't know who you're serving, let's say let's say you're doing social media promotions, In the dashboard, there's a lot of demographic information you can see. Also, you can test it to see if you put out something about marriage and you don't get much shares or feedback versus something about dating. If you get a lot more there, you know you may be trending younger. But again, on those dashboards, there's a lot of information for this type of promotion. Additionally, for educators and coaches, I think there's great opportunities to host events centered around relationships and money. For coaches, there's a lot of opportunities to work one-on-one with people. Ideally, to be proactive, we're reaching them before they're in that marriage stage, that bonding stage. It's a lot easier to have those discussions with them when they're starting to prepare for a new life together, rather than helping them 25 years later when they didn't communicate over those 25 years. Their goals completely diverged, and now they're 25 years later having the conversations for the first time. That can be very challenging. So again, if you can help them proactively have those conversations, it is a good thing. So that's what we're doing for the romantic partner side of things. Another equally as important thing is the love of our children, right? We want what's better for our children. We want them to live a happier, healthier, more fulfilling life. We want them to have those dreams and successes, live better than the last generation. That's what we want for our youth. And it's critical. Parents are teaching their kids about money. Schools are not doing it. They're not doing it. And even the schools that do, the school states that mandate it, it's not enough. The max time that they'll get in school is 1 semester. That is not enough. It does not offer enough time or rigor. It does not offer, they don't have qualified and trained teachers that know how to teach this subject matter. Many states aren't funded. Many of the curriculums suggestions are put together by legislatures, not program designers. There's a lot of issues even when states do have it. So parents, if you truly care about your kid, if you love them, if you want what's best for them in their lives, you need to teach them. Now, through the Love and Money Month campaign, there's a lot of resources that will help you do that. And I'm going to take the burden off you too. As parents, you're busy. You likely have a job. You likely have extra work activities. You take care of the house and you're taking care of a kid. Life is busy. But there's opportunities to teach kids without being so formal. So I want to take the pain away from sitting down and do a formal structured lessons first. I think there's room for formal and structured lessons, but there's also fun things you could do as parents, right? I think one of the easiest ways is implementing a chore system early on, where they're understanding they need to work and put effort to earn money so they can save up for the things that they want, and also long term. I think kids should be contributing toward household bills, when they're younger, it might be the bigger things they can see: house expense, car expense. As they get into their teen years, you can break that down into a cell phone bill, electric bill, and additionally saving for the things that they want to buy now and the long term. It's a basic structure that builds the key muscles you need as an adult. Basically, personal finance only comes down to 3 core things, right? If you can earn money, if you can control your expenses, and if you can save money. That's it. That's personal finance. Now we can get into the nuances. Yeah, credit helps you cut down expenses. Investing helps you grow this. But the very basics is what we can teach our kids. And it's not just teaching, it's behaviors and habits. So parents, it's critical you're counteracting the millions of ads that they'll see before they're 18. It's critical you're counteracting all the social influencers that may be showing more of a consumerism type lifestyle, or spending on things that your child may not be able to afford right now. It's important to counteract this peer influence of trying to keep up with the Joneses, and you can do that. 2 other things here. It's really important to understand that kids' financial habits form young. Brown University points to age 9. And that was a very comprehensive survey of over 500,000 families, actually a study of over 50,000 families for that one. And it showed the work ethic habit formed by age 9. So it's critical you are starting that young. And secondly, we can leverage day-to-day events with our kids in a fun way. So if we're watching an ad, we can have a conversation. Hey, what's that trying to convince you of? Who do you think they're trying to reach? What are they selling, right? What kind of imagery are they using? We can have those conversations. Or maybe we can play games as a family, like cutting down the light bill. You can sit down with them with last year's electric bill at the same time. So if it's February this year, you're sitting them down with February's electric bill and saying, hey, here's what we paid last year at this time. Let's see if we can cut that down by 10, 15%. If so, we'll do some cool family activity together. It's a fun thing. And the interesting thing is a lot of the parents report to us that their kids are reminding them and say, hey, mom, shut off that light. Hey, you left the light on. We want to go have that pizza party or whatever. So you have the opportunity to have fun, engaging games with them. Or when you go shopping, let them know what you're comparing, right? If you're comparing price, how are you evaluating that? So those little things make a difference and can add up. Additionally, I think there is definitely a need for formal education. So all those fun things set aside, you need to take time to go through a standardized curriculum with your children and teach them the lessons so you know that by the time they leave your home, they can be self-sufficient, contributing members of society. They're not a drain on the family and having to borrow money from you, grandparents, aunts, and uncles. They're contributing to the family unit, and they're just self-sufficient. That's key. Schools do not graduate self-sufficient individuals. Absolutely not. The subjects they're teaching are completely outdated, so you are responsible to make sure that they can do it. I don't want to put anything else on your back. I know you parents are busy out there, but it is important. And for you educators, for you coaches, for you in financial services, the teaching kids about money represents a huge opportunity for you. I know a lot of you are serving adults. Well, if they have kids and family members, it's an easy way to bridge that gap to make sure that you're looking out for that family unit in their overall finances and encouraging them to teach their kids, providing them resources to teach their kids, inviting them to events, maybe a parent and kid event, training them on how to do those chores. That's the way you can really expand your network, and it offers a different vertical. So if you're just working with adults now you have a completely different vertical, which is family members and bringing the kids together. Or maybe you're working with kids and teens. Well, let's bridge over the parents, right? And get the parents involved. When we're teaching kids about money, parental involvement is critical for long-term behavior change. If we don't have parental involvement, the impact of what we're doing for kids and teens is limited. So it's important that you're bridging over the parents into that education as well. And the interesting thing is, you likely will find, is when you're teaching the kids, they're bringing it home to the parents. The parents are getting educated. And I remember we'd get questions all the time saying, hey, you told my kid this, is this correct, right? Or we did an event for teenagers, college-bound youth and their parents. This was first-time college-bound youth and their parents. And when we were teaching the kids about money, but the parents were asking questions. So a lot of what we're teaching youth today actually helps the parents. So be sure to, again, think holistically. If you're working with kids, how can you bring in the parents? If you're working with parents, how can you bring in the kids? It not only expands your verticals that you can serve, but it just is more helpful in the long term. Additionally, those in financial services, huge opportunity for you. Have the parents bring the kids for some interactions. It could be like a career discussion, right? It could be a day in the life of a financial planner. And it could be, hey, you bring them in the last 5 minutes of the meeting to get them comfortable with how professionals talk and communicate. All that exposure is good. And again, I think it represents great opportunity for you to get in front of your clients or potential clients and their family and establish those types of relationships. Again, October, we have our Cash for Candy campaign, where a lot of financial services host buybacks for candy buybacks. So they're buying candy from these prospective clients or clients and getting the candy instead. So taking away the sugar, giving the money, but also giving the parents tools to educate their kids. Great campaign. We'll cover that in October. Lastly, we have Parents I should say adults and their aging parents, very critical thing. This type of conversation obviously doesn't happen quite a bit, and the reason it's obvious, we see a lot of fights amongst siblings, who gets what. We see a lot of family members when they pass away, nobody knows where various assets or bills or where they are holding certain things or their bank accounts. We have adults that think their parents are in great shape, and they get the call, hey, I can't afford a home. Can I stay with you? That's a tough call from a pride standpoint. From just say, they've lived their whole life independently. Now they have to make that call to you. That just hits people's ego. It's a very tough call to make, and it can be very tough on you financially too if you don't have that discussion with your aging parent. So there's some really important conversations to have with parents. We have a guide there, which is conversation starters to have with your aging parents. And within that guide, it provides different ways that you can engage people that are aging in that conversation, so everybody's prepared. One of the biggest hits somebody could take financially is when they have to take care of a family member. You may have your goals and dreams all laid out, and you don't realize you have to take care of Papa John, right? Because he's getting older, doesn't have money. Having those conversations early will help. And for educators and coaches, I think there's a tremendous opportunity there as well for you. It could be an easy social media share where it's like, hey, have you talked with your parents about their situation, right? And just reminding them. You may want to host an event around that. If you know your demographics of our 40, 50, 60-year-old people, they likely have some aging parents. So you may want to host a special event for that. Additionally, if you're a coach and you know that your client has parents that are still alive, you need to ask them directly, what's the plan with your dad and mom, right? Have you discussed that? If not, you need to work with them and proactively help them have those conversations so it won't blow their budget at the end of their life when they need to be very focused on their own retirement. And so it's critical. Somebody might retire thinking that they're set and they have enough finances to make it till their end of life, but they didn't realize they had to take care of their parents. So very critical conversations as a coach to have as well. And again, if we look at everything we talked about, from romantic relationships, to teaching kids, to talking with aging parents, a common theme there is being proactive. If we can be proactive, we can control the amount of divorce rates out there, right? Or at least that conversation about money has been had before they're married. If we can be proactive with our kids, well, we know they're going to be in a better position, or at least have the capabilities to make decisions that may lead them to greater financial health. If we proactively talk with aging parents, it could help avoid added strain on somebody's finances. So a theme of everything we did is proactivity. And I really encourage you guys to get involved. Again, there's many ways you could do it. Obviously, when you're working one-on-one, you're going to have deep insight into their family life and what's going on there. So if you're coaching, you can prescribe the specific solution for them and have those conversations. If you are educating people and you know your demographics, and hey, if a lot have family members or not, you can do special events around that. And if you're offering financial services as well, you should know your audience to do special events or so forth. On our website, financialeducatorscouncil.org/love and money month, there's a lot of resources for you. Or if you just type in Love and Money Month on Google, there's a lot of resources for you to utilize. We really want you to get the message out, because we feel with proactively providing education, it can help people avoid a lot of challenging circumstances and really help their entire family unit grow and prosper financially.